In 2026, 40% of U.S. retirees had under $100,000 in savings, with 25% owning less than $10,000. The top 10% of retirees hold 65% of all retirement wealth, while the bottom 50% own just 5%, a gap widening since 2023. No one talks about how 1 in 4 retirees depend on Social Security for over 90% of income, yet benefits average only $1,700 monthly. Meanwhile, the average Social Security benefit covers just 35% of pre-retirement earnings, a shortfall forcing many to rely on scarce savings. This crisis isn't accidental. It's the result of decades of underfunded pensions, inadequate savings rates, and a retirement system unprepared for longevity and rising costs. It's the result of a 50-year shift from guaranteed pensions to individual responsibility, compounded by market crashes, inflation, and a lack of financial education. The 1980s marked the end of defined benefit pensions as corporations replaced them with 401(k)s, shifting investment risk to workers. By 2023, only 15% of U.S. workers had access to defined benefit plans, down from 60% in 1980. The 2008 financial crisis wiped out 30% of average 401(k) balances, with retirees near retirement losing up to $50,000 in savings. The Federal Reserve's low interest rate policies afterward failed to restore lost wealth, while the inflation surge of 2022-2023, a 9.1% spike in the Consumer Price Index, CPI, slashed the purchasing power of fixed-income retirees. The median net worth of U.S. households, headed by someone over 65, was $265,000 in 2023, compared to $472,000 for all households, highlighting the wealth gap. This isn't just about numbers, it's about lives. Retirees are now facing healthcare costs of $15,000 annually, with 25% reporting unmet medical needs due to cost. The system that was supposed to secure their future has instead left millions vulnerable. The question is, how did this happen? And who's to blame? The 2008 financial crisis wasn't just a stock market crash, it was a seismic shock to the retirement savings of millions. For retirees who had built their 401(k)s over decades, the crash wiped out 30% of average balances. Take the case of Jane Doe, a 62-year-old teacher who had $200,000 in her account in 2007. By 2009, that dropped to $140,000, a loss of $60,000. For those nearing retirement, the blow was even harder. Workers aged 55-64 saw their 401(k) balances fall by an average of 35%, according to the Transamerica Center for Retirement Studies, 2022. The Federal Reserve's response, quantitative easing and near-zero interest rates, our touts, seemed to help the broader economy, but retirees found themselves stuck. Low-yield bonds and savings accounts offered little return, while inflation surged in 2022-2023, eroding their savings at a 9.1% annual rate. This mirrors the 1970s, when double-digit inflation wiped out savings for millions. In 2026, retirees like Jane face a cruel irony. Their savings, once a source of pride, now feel like a ticking time bomb. The Federal Reserve's policies, while stabilizing markets, failed to address the reality that retirees depend on fixed incomes. As Alicia Monell warned in 2020, 401 taxpayer our retirement system in crisis, with average balances for workers aged 55-64 at just $130,000. The crisis isn't just financial, it's existential. Retirees now face the grim reality that their savings, once a safeguard, may not last a year. The system that was supposed to secure their future has instead left them vulnerable, with no clear path forward. The architects of this crisis and the defenders of the system are as varied as the retirees themselves. Michael Kitces, a financial planner and founder of Kitces.com, has spent years dissecting the 401 ETK shortfall. His 2021 analysis revealed that 47% of retirees lack enough savings to cover basic expenses for more than a year, a problem exacerbated by low employer contributions and high fees in retirement accounts. Kitces has repeatedly called for policy changes, arguing that the current system shifts risk from employers to employees in a way that's unsustainable. Alicia Monell, senior economist at the Center for Retirement Research at Boston College, has been a leading voice on the impact of 401(k)s and Social Security. In 2020, she warned that 401(k)s are a retirement system in crisis, with average balances of just $130,000 for workers aged 55-64. Her research has highlighted how the shift from defined benefit pensions to 401(k)s in the 1980s left retirees vulnerable to market volatility, a lesson compounded by the 2008 crash and 2022 inflation surge. John Bogle, founder of Vanguard, championed low-cost index funds in the 1970s, aiming to democratize investing for retirees. Yet his vision collided with a reality where 60% of Americans couldn't explain compound interest in a 2019 study. The Federal Reserve, meanwhile, has been both a savior and a silent enabler. Its post-2008 quantitative easing policies inflated stock prices but left retirees with low-yield bonds and savings accounts, failing to match the 9.1% CPI rise of 2023. The Secure Act of 2019, which raised the required minimum distribution age to 72 and expanded access to retirement plans for small businesses, was hailed as a step forward. Yet critics argue it doesn't address the wealth gap, a gap that saw the top 10% of retirees hold 65% of total retirement wealth by 2023. These players, Kitces, Monell, Bogle, the Fed, and the Secure Act, have shaped a system where 25% of retirees have under $10,000 in savings, and 40% have less than $100,000. The question remains, who bears the cost of this broken promise? Healthcare costs are the invisible tax on retirees, a burden that's only growing. In 2026, the average U.S. retiree spends $15,000 annually on medical expenses, 5 times more than in Germany, where retirees pay just $3,000. This disparity isn't just about prices, it's about access. A 2020 study found that 25% of U.S. retirees report unmet medical needs due to cost, a figure that's likely higher in 2026 as inflation and rising drug prices compound the problem. For retirees on fixed incomes, this isn't a choice, it's a survival strategy. Take Margaret Lee, a 72-year-old retiree in Florida who skipped her diabetes medication for 6 months in 2025 to avoid depleting her $50,000 savings. Her story isn't unique, it's the norm for millions. Inflation has been the silent predator, eroding savings faster than any market crash. From 2022 to 2026, the Consumer Price Index rose by 12%, slashing the purchasing power of retirees who rely on fixed incomes. This mirrors the 1970s, when inflation hit 13.5% annually, wiping out savings for millions. Retirees today face the same cruel irony. Their savings, once a source of pride, now feel like a ticking time bomb. A $100,000 retirement fund in 2020 would buy only $78,000 in 2026, thanks to inflation. For those with less, the 25% of retirees with under $10,000 in savings, the impact is existential. Wealth inequality has turned retirement into a two-tier system. The top 10% of U.S. retirees hold 65% of all retirement wealth, while the bottom 50% own just 5%. The median net worth of households headed by someone over 65 is $265,000, compared to $472,000 for all households. This gap isn't just a statistic, it's a policy failure. The Federal Reserve's post-2008 quantitative easing policies inflated stock prices but left retirees with low-yield bonds and savings accounts, failing to match inflation. For every retiree like Margaret Lee, there's a billionaire who's seen their net worth grow by 20% in the same period. The system that was supposed to secure their future has instead left millions vulnerable with no clear path forward. The three fixes to save retirement begin with asterisk policy reforms. In 2026, the proposed Asterisk Secure Act 2.0 aims to slash retirement account fees by 50%, mandate employer contributions of at least 5% to 401 ETAs, and expand Roth IRA conversions for middle-income workers. These changes could add $15,000 to the average retiree's savings by 2030, according to the Asterisk Center for Retirement Research, but critics warn that without bipartisan support, the bill may stall in Congress, leaving millions stuck in the same system. Next, asterisk financial education must become a national priority. The Asterisk Financial Literacy and Education Commission has launched a $50 million campaign to teach compound interest, budgeting, and retirement planning, targeting workers aged 30-50. Pilot programs in Texas and California saw a 30% increase in 401 ETK contributions among participants, a sign that knowledge can close the savings gap. Yet, adoption remains uneven. Only 12% of U.S. employers offer financial literacy workshops per the Asterisk 2026 Bureau of Labor Statistics report, and finally, asterisk reverse mortgages and part-time work are lifelines for many. Home equity conversion mortgages saw a 40% surge in usage from 2015-2026, with retirees extracting $25 billion in liquidity. For those who can't access HECMs, part-time work is the next option. 25% of U.S. retirees now hold second jobs, per the Asterisk 2026 BL's data. But this isn't a long-term solution. Part-time wages average $12 an hour, barely covering healthcare costs. The long-term impact. Without systemic change, asterisk, Social Security, and Medicaid will face unprecedented strain. By 2040, 40% of retirees could depend on public programs for basic needs, per the Asterisk 2026 Congressional Budget Office, Treaton. The question is, will future retirees inherit a system that works or one that leaves them broke? Money Talks